We're live from the Olympic Stadium for New Zealand v Namibia in the Rugby World Cup 2015 tonight at 7:30. Now, though, with the time nearly 1:30, it's the ITV Lunchtime News.
Tragedy strikes Islam's Hajj again. Nearly 500 die in a stampede near Mecca. They were in a huge crowd taking part in one of the rituals. The authorities say victims came from far and wide. Also this lunchtime, Volkswagen admit they cheated on pollution tests in Europe as well as America. The contraceptive jab women and girls can give themselves that raises profound questions. And
fancy quitting smoking? You'll get personal support.
Stoptober, why comedian Al Murray is saying giving up next month could be a lasting lifesaver.
This is ITV News with Alistair Stewart.
Good afternoon. The death toll is now approaching 500. Many more are injured. The victims were caught in a crush at a ceremony near Mecca on the first day of the Eid celebrations. It happened in the village of Mina, close to one of the famous sites along the route. At least 700 others have also been injured, and there are fears those numbers could rise even further in what was, in effect, a human stampede. Muslims from across the world, including many Britons, make the Hajj pilgrimage every year. A warning, there are images in Peter Smith's report of the aftermath of that crush.
On the first day of Eid al-Adha, one of the two holiest days for Muslims, an unholy catastrophe. Wheelchairs tipped over, desperate attempts to revive the injured, and hundreds dead after a crush.
Allahu Akbar.
It happened during Hajj, the biggest annual pilgrimage anywhere in the world. Each year, millions of Muslims make this journey here to the holy city of Mecca in Saudi Arabia, the birthplace of the Prophet Muhammad. It's considered a religious duty for all able Muslims to make this pilgrimage at least once in their lifetime, and around 25,000 British nationals are expected to have travelled to Mecca this year. The crush happened at the site of a ritual known as the Stoning of the Devil, a symbolic reenactment of the rejection of evil for Muslims. This is where every Muslim in Mecca wanted to be today for Eid al-Adha, but the passageways to get here are bursting at the seams. The queues are hundreds of thousands deep, and the paths all lead to the same place. In the inevitable bottleneck, stampedes and crushes are all too common. After previous deaths, Saudi authorities have built other routes into the site to ease the pressure, but that clearly didn't work today. This is also the second disaster at the holy city of Mecca this month. The collapse of a construction crane killed 118 people here just 13 days ago. In today's crush, it's not yet known if any British citizens were killed, but the Foreign Office tells us they are urgently seeking more information. Peter Smith, ITV News.
And earlier I spoke to Rashid Magradia, the Chief Executive of the Council of British Hajis, and I began by asking him if he knew how many British people might be involved.
So far, we've not had a single incident report coming through that any British national have been affected, though it's still very early time. We have a number of reports coming in from tour operators who are guiding their pilgrims to say they have been fine. A total of 20,000 British pilgrims are out there in Hajj, and it's very hard at this stage to locate each and every one of them.
Can we just talk about the numbers for a moment, because the pictures make it very clear the scale of it, as did the crane collapse just a little while ago. This used to be something that only the wealthy could do. It is now a mass religious statement. Have the Saudis kept up with that in terms of safety and security?
Well, the Saudis take safety of any pilgrims very seriously, and as a result of the increasing numbers that we've seen in the number of years, they've actually expanded the Grand Mosque in Mecca and also the holy sites in Mina, Arafah and Muzdalifah. And for that reason, the safety concern has been addressed. What we're trying to find out at the moment is why this particular incident has happened, how it's happened, and get to the root cause of why it happened despite all the security measures and safety measures that were addressed.
you head up the Council of British Hajis, but there will be many people listening to this conversation who may have friends or family out there. What should they do now if they have not heard anything?
First and foremost, they need to contact their individual relatives or friends or family that are out there in Saudi Arabia. They'll have their local or national number directly with them and try and get some kind of link. Failing that, they can contact us at the council. We're at cbhuk.org. And after that, there's a support team headed by the British Embassy in Jeddah, and they can contact them. The details and numbers are available on our website, again, cbhuk.org.
All right, Rashid Magradia, we'll put that on our website as well. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Rashid Magradia there from the Council of British Hajis speaking to me a little earlier. And he mentioned helplines. You can get a link to those numbers on our website, as I promised, itv.com/news. Next this lunchtime, ITV News has been told by a former boss of the British Olympics Association that ticket touts need to be fined big sums for breaking the law. Lord Moynihan's comments follow the ITV News investigation into the number of sellers charging much more than the face value of Rugby World Cup tickets. Our consumer editor Chris Choi investigates.
It's Rugby Showcase, but as our hidden cameras reveal, the touts are out.
It's going to cost you a few quid. How much? It'll cost you about 480 quid.
Each?
Yeah, but what you got?
What do you want to pay?
Four together. Do you want them all together?
Yeah.
That's the thing. If you want them together, it's going to cost money.
Street touts can earn big money pumping up prices, operating without trading licences or authorisation from tournament organisers. Now, the sports expert that advised government on its legislation has told ITV News the rules need an urgent rethink.
The modern-day ticket tout is sitting in his garage having a pre-programmed software computer called a bot, pre-programmed with, say, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 credit card details. So when the legitimate fan is sitting there typing in his name and address to buy a ticket, they've all gone.
It's feared that the explosion of unauthorised ticket sellers gives cover to those suspected of exploiting fans. New figures issued today show police have received 400 reports about this website. It's taken £610,000. Larry Butler paid for 20 tickets, but has so far received nothing.
It's just sickly to say that I thought there was a week ago we were going out to enjoy ourselves. Then this week and last week, part of last week, was just a nightmare. I just don't want to ever live this again.
Across 13 venues and 2 months, millions of tickets have been sold, but it's feared that among the winners will be the touts.
This is a moving story for you, isn't it? What's the latest?
Well, the latest is that the officials organising the tournament say they've crossed an important milestone. They've now sold 2.2 million tickets through official channels. They're also, partly in response to this kind of problem, they are pushing their own resale site, which acts as a kind of swap shop for people that have got spare tickets, and they sell at face value. But of course, there are people who are prepared to shell out far more than that. So we've been doing a bit of research on current prices. Now, at some of the reselling websites, tickets are now advertised at £50,000 for the final. That's what's been asked for. Will it be achieved? I doubt it. But what is being achieved is tickets for the final that were originally at £300 are today, I'm told, selling at £895. So this Rugby World Cup has created a lot of excitement. People are getting carried away at times, along with their wallets, I think.
Chris, thank you. Now, a teenager thought to be from East Africa has been killed by a freight train near the Channel Tunnel entrance in Calais. Eurotunnel says paramedics were called after someone was found unconscious near the railway tracks last night. He is the 11th person to have died in or near the tunnel since June. The Chancellor of the Exchequer has urged Chinese investors to bid for contracts to build the new HS2 railway. George Osborne made the plea during a 5-day trade trip to the country. He also opened a pitch book on more than £20 million of investment opportunities in the north of England. And a woman who made headlines after claiming a Primark security guard pulled her baby from her whilst she was breastfeeding has admitted lying. Caroline Starmer pleaded guilty to intent to pervert the course of justice. She will be sentenced in December. Now, the German government has said that emission rigging on VW vehicles did take place in Europe, not just in America. The world's biggest car manufacturer admitted millions of vehicles might be fitted with software that falsified emission tests. Well, our business editor, Joel Hills, joins me live in the studio now. You've been on top of this since it broke. It doesn't stop giving. What's the latest?
Well, look, an important admission, but there's a lot still, Alistair, we don't know. The same technology that was used in the United States to cheat emissions tests was used here in Europe. VW didn't tell us that. The German transport minister told us that the company had assured him that was the case. The scale of this, and this is the important thing, isn't clear. Shares in VW are actually up this morning. They were up about 3.5% last time I looked. But it's interesting that the German government also said it was now conducting random tests on other car manufacturers to make sure they weren't using these same defeat devices. Renault shares, Fiat shares, Honda shares, Nissan shares, BMW shares all down. BMW shares down by up to 10% at one point, although it has denied, as have all manufacturers, that it uses these defeat devices. It's been a busy day. The European Commission wants all member states to investigate. The British government's position at the moment appears to be, the Department for Transport says it has no current plans to do so. It has, however, asked the VCA, which is the licensing agency, to have constructive conversations, whatever that means, with manufacturers. Will there be recalls in the UK? We just don't know. Will there be legal action? We just don't know at the moment, although lawyers undoubtedly feel there might be a lot of business ahead.
I bet so. Joel, thank you. Still to come this lunchtime, the Pope and politics. What will he say to the United States Congress? And the paralysed man making medical history as he learns to walk again. But first, women and young girls will soon be able to use contraceptive injections at home instead of going to the doctor. Girls as young as 12 could be prescribed the jabs, which provide protection for at least 13 weeks. Our reporter Faye Barker joins me live now. Tell us first of all about the jab and also about today's developments.
Yeah, well, this is a particular contraceptive injection called Ciana Press. What has changed is that it's now going to be given, it has been given a licence so people can give it to themselves. So the drug company Pfizer, who make it, say that this could be an option for women who perhaps don't always have enough time to get to a GP or a clinic. And she would always initially be shown how to use it, probably in the leg or the stomach, by a professional. She'd then do it at home every 13 weeks or so, but then would have annual checkups. Now, we have spoken to a GP from the Royal College of GPs today, and they welcome its use.
The beauty of this new device is that it puts control into the patient's hands. So women are used to having contraception injections. They've been around for decades. However, this is the same drug given in a novel way. So it means that women can take control and inject themselves.
She makes the point, and you made it yourself a moment ago, it's going to be convenient to busy young women and even girls. Is there a downside? Are there worries?
Well, I think we need to be worried about younger girls using this, and there are always concerns about young people's sexual health. And this kind of contraceptive will stop you maybe getting pregnant, but it's not going to protect you against sexually transmitted diseases. We do have some figures of under 16s who use contraceptive injections or implants. 33,000 were given them on the NHS in England between 2010 and 2014. Of those, just over 21,000 had the implant and 12,100 were given the injections. I think a key point to make now is that this would only be given to girls aged between 12 and 18 if all other methods were considered unacceptable or unsuitable for them. Many people have been getting in touch with this about us today. Tina Davis, she said, when I lived in Spain, they sold me the contraceptive injection over the counter. I injected myself every 3 months. It's scary that anyone could buy it, but I must say that's not how it would work here in the UK. Anna Lobley said anyone under 16 shouldn't be having sex, but they are, so do we plead ignorance or do we protect and educate? And we also had Jenna Pickett say, I would much rather my daughter be on this at 12 than having to go through an abortion. Well, it will always going to be at the GP's discretion who has it. The Department of Health said it should be available in the coming months, and there is a debate to be had about it going on our Facebook page, facebook.com/ITV News. Right.
Faye, thank you very much. Pope Francis will become the first pope to deliver a speech to the United States Congress later. He'll talk about issues such as climate change, which he mentioned yesterday, and immigration. After a ceremony at the White House yesterday, the Pope met nuns in Washington. Earlier in the day, he'd been greeted by thousands of well-wishers who'd lined the streets of the capital to get a glimpse of the religious leader. Well, our Washington correspondent, Robert Moore, joins us live now. A busy schedule, Robert, continues very much so in the next few hours.
Sure. I mean, this speech here at the joint session of Congress is undoubtedly, Alistair, going to be the most closely watched moment of the Pope's tour. It has the potential to be uncomfortable for both sides of America's great political divide. You know, many Republicans who are sceptical of climate change are going to be very wary about the Pope's environmental activism. They may not like his talk of social and economic injustice in America, of its unbridled capitalism. We also understand the Pope in this speech is going to make a very kind of vocal and articulate opposition to the death penalty. That may be tricky for them. But Democrats too might be challenged by the Pope's opposition to both abortion and gay marriage. So essentially this morning the Pope is putting himself right in the middle of a very political environment.
It's been a remarkable welcome as well, particularly from a country that is so multi-faith.
Well, that's true, but perhaps not surprising because he is the first Pope from the Americas. He's making his first ever trip to the United States. So not altogether remarkable that he's receiving this rock star welcome everywhere he goes. Thousands of people lining the streets. So I think essentially he sees his role here as what a Pope always does. He's holding a mirror up to this country and challenging it both morally and politically.
Robert, thank you. Now, doctors will tell you any time is a good time to give up smoking. The trick is sticking to it. Public Health England can prove that if you stop smoking for 28 days, you are 5 times more likely to give up for good. So they're relaunching the Stoptober campaign, encouraging the nation to stub it out next month.
Fancy quitting smoking? You'll get personal support by email, text or app. And it's free. Search Stoptober and sign up pronto. What are you waiting for?
Well, last year, more than 250,000 people took up the challenge to stop smoking for Stoptober, with more than 2/3 going 28 days without a cigarette. And those who stuck with it were 5 times more likely to stop smoking for good. Well, the voice and the face of that campaign video, I'm delighted to say, is, of course, Al Murray, and he's with us here in the studio. A serious question. Did it take you a lot of persuading to get on board this?
Well, no, actually. Last year I did the campaign and they invited me back and, you know, they said very pleased very nicely, so I was straight in.
So did you give up last year?
No, long ago. But the thing is, obviously in the pub trade, what you've got is the fact people can't smoke in pubs anymore. So if they want to go in pubs, they're going to have to give up. You know, it's an incentive right there.
Yeah, but you see, you have many personas, and I know you as a very serious and bright fellow, as well as the pub landlord and also the upside-down pound on there as well. There are some who would argue that this is intrusive. What I do is entirely up to me. Would the pub landlord really support this?
Oh, well, no, I'm not here to tell anyone what to do. I'm simply saying that Stoptober offers you the opportunity to give up if you want. You know, if you want to give up, we've got the stuff to help. You go online, you search Stoptober, there's personal help, emails, texts, messages from comedians. It's a fantastic little scheme, and the idea is to give people that little helping hand, a little bit of gentle cupping on the way.
So, with your totally serious hat on now, just for a moment, this is not only a health concern, it's a real economic challenge for the country. We've often talked to the next man I'm going to talk to, sitting next to me now, Alok Jha, and people like that on the science team. This costs the country.
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah, it costs the country, and it costs the people smoking as well if they give up. I mean, we've got Christmas round the corner with October now. You know, it couldn't be a better time, I think, personally.
All right. Well, message heard and received, and always a pleasure, Al, to see you.
Never a chore.
Thanks for coming in. Al Murray there for us. Now, an update for you of our top story this lunchtime. In the last few minutes, officials have now said that more than 700 people have been killed in a crash near the holy city of Mecca in Saudi Arabia. 800 others were injured. They'd travelled to take part in the annual Hajj pilgrimage, and we will bring you the very latest on that story on our ITV News at 6:30. Finally, a man in the United States has made medical history by becoming the first paralysed person ever to walk using the power of his brain cells. Adam Fritz was left unable to walk after a motorbike accident 5 years ago. Doctors in America successfully bypassed his damaged nerves. Well, our science correspondent Alok Jha joins me now. This is the sort of thing you absolutely love. It is an awesome story.
It is. I mean, it wasn't long ago that we all thought that nerve and spinal injuries were a sentence for life. They were incurable, it was paralysis, and there's no coming back from it. But there's so much work going on now, not just this, but others, where people are growing stem cells into nerve cells, and someone walked last year as a result of that. This particular process today in California is called a neural bypass, and that allowed the patient to get around his broken spinal cord using engineering, essentially. So here's how it works. First of all, what the patient does is to just think about walking. That produces a certain pattern of electrical signals in his brain, and those signals are recorded to a computer via a brain cap that contains electrodes. Those signals are then transmitted to a device that stimulates the muscles in his leg, and then his legs begin to walk. It's an incredible thing.
Incredible. You said California. What about here?
Well, it's not going to happen here anytime soon, or, mind you, in California, in clinics there. Today's work in California is really a proof of concept. It's one patient, so they're going to have to repeat it multiple times to really understand how this works. And it took 5 months for this patient to actually get to the point he was at. We spoke to a robotics expert at Imperial College London who told us a bit more about the kind of advances that have been made today.
It's a very strong sounding board for future work that could be of direct benefits to the patient. In particular, what I think, the surface recording can be challenging to do outside of controlled environs, but showing the link between the brain and the electrical stimulation is a good contribution to knowledge in that area.
Hate to throw cold water around, but brilliant science costs a lot of money.
Of course it will, and this exact same thing, any medical technology, any drug, the first time it happens, it will cost a lot of money, but that's what searching in the darkness will get you. Of course, it will start to get cheaper as it carries on, but the interesting thing is it's non-invasive, it doesn't involve robotic limbs, so that should reduce the cost slightly. But let's be honest, the cost is not what people who, with this life sentence would have thought before. It wouldn't have been thought for them.
Good upbeat end. Alok, thank you very much indeed. That is it. We're back at 6:30. From all of us, a very good afternoon to you. Bye-bye.
No matter what the weather, Green Flag Breakdown Response sponsors the ITV National Weather.
Hello to you again. A very good afternoon. Well, some lovely sunshine forecast in time for the weekend. In the meantime, the weather really letting us down after a horribly rainy start across the southeast. That rain now long gone as it pulls its way into the near continent. Behind this, well, spells of sunshine restricted by the cloud cover. In the next few hours, frequent blustery downpours piling their way into Scotland and Northern Ireland, some intense and lively enough to give rumbles of thunder, possibly some hail, and some of those blustery downpours also rolling their way into those western counties. Some will have enough oomph to blow their way to the east, but in many sheltered and eastern spots, a little drier. Temperatures very similar to yesterday, but if you factor in the blustery winds, so much chillier. See you again soon.
Green Flag Breakdown Response sponsors the ITV National Weather.
Hello again. Now the main story is in London, and a woman who claims her son was left severely brain damaged after doctors ignored her advice is planning to sue Great Ormond Street Hospital. Gabrielle Alley, who is a medical scientist, claims that her son Elijah was left unable to walk or talk after doctors gave him the blood-thinning drug heparin. She says that she knew the drug would harm him because of his existing medical conditions, but her pleas were ignored.
I said, well, I'm just going to take him out of here then because I don't agree with it. And they said if I did that, then they would have to alert the proper authorities. So we were forced to be there knowing that something was going to happen. And Elijah knew something was going to happen as well.
Well, in a statement, Great Ormond Street Hospital said, "We launched an investigation to thoroughly examine all elements of the care that was provided. It has not been possible to identify why Elijah suffered such a sudden deterioration in his condition and what could have changed things for him. We've discussed the outcome of this with Elijah's family and continue to support them during his ongoing treatment." Homelessness in London's rising faster than anywhere else in the country, according to new government figures out today. They showed that homelessness in the capital is up 10% on the same quarter last year, compared with 5% for the rest of the country. This means London now has almost a third of all the homeless households in the country. As well as this, 3/4 of all the households in England living in temporary accommodation are in London. The former Pink Floyd guitarist David Gilmour is set to play 5 shows at the Royal Albert Hall this autumn. The shows will coincide with the launch of his 4th solo album, which, as yet, has no title. It's his first live show in the country for almost a decade, and he's hoping to repeat the success of his previous work.
This album is probably some of the best work I've ever done. I really love listening to it, and I'm just hope other people will get a tenth of the enjoyment and satisfaction out of it that I have had out of it.
David Gilmour, now Martin's weather.
Seems to be brightening up, lads. Oh, yeah. Lovely, Roy. See you tomorrow.
Hello again. After that dull and damp start, it is continuing to brighten up as we head through the remainder of this afternoon. And tomorrow's a nice day too. Sunny and fine. That's how it stays as well as we head towards the weekend. Sunny spells out there at the moment. Relatively breezy, though, just taking the edge off temperatures. And we've got a cool night in store. Clear skies allowing temperatures to dip down to single figures. But the clear skies also mean plenty of sunshine tomorrow morning. So we're off to a lovely start. A bit more cloud builds into the afternoon, but brighter, less breezy than today. So feeling a little warmer. And the weekend looking great too. Plenty of sunshine, warm during the day, but cool at night. Goodbye.
What a nice fella. John.
Coming up on the programme at 6.
It's space. It doesn't cooperate. I guarantee you that at some point
Stars of Ridley Scott's new film, The Martian, as it premieres in London. And that is it for now. David Gilmour's new album, of course, is Rattle That Lock. Sorry. More on our website at the usual address, itv.com/London. But for now, from the whole team here, a very good afternoon to you. Bye-bye.